Okay. West America is not a free for all. The Opium Wars, Vietnam, Ladyboys, um, the military didn't discharge gay people to San Francisco, Chicago, but rather people who were doing something wrong. And these people typically have a brother and a sister. It's kind of a George Washington thing. You can't do the right thing. And some people just think, but it's free. Look at all that land out there. A manifest destiny. Let's just go out there and who cares what weapons we use? Okay. It's largely drugs. Okay. Vietnam um, is in the Golden Triangle. Um, and America, this is acutely complex stuff, to say nothing of complicated by military ambitions of let's get them high. Okay, the veterinarians or the Vietnam vets or any sort of you know, um, my neighbor and good friend who I knew for many years would go out cruising around, sometimes work jobs, labor jobs, and he was flaming bisexual, um, and he's on Facebook. Okay, and um, he would say crazy stuff and drugs. Yes, this is a reality. Um, but on the East Coast and in Europe, I've um, um, just a very different reality. Very different. Okay. That's why I loved it there. I drove through Oklahoma once. Okay. Once, yes, indeed. Um, and I, in California, I'll often go camping out in the middle of nowhere, camper van. And I kind of did this in Oklahoma in like less than a minute. A police guy showed up, and boy, was he a character. He was like hot to trot. And he thought, I must have drugs or something like that. Possessed him. He says, "You know this is Oklahoma, right?" He said, with a lot of enthusiasm. Um, I'm like, okay, yes, all right, now I do. Um, and it's difficult, okay? Um, yeah, I studied the forensics of the family childhood experience mostly to get my um, theoretic policy to solve the problem, not to ignore the problem. Okay, and again, if you want to talk about the Vietnam uh, opium golden triangle, or those are acutely complex, just literally an accordion of geopolitics of the um, accessible and inaccessible um, elements and excuses. Okay, I think if you grew up in Montana, Rosebud, you could have a really innocent thing. But if you grew up near San Francisco, you might be driven to uh, desperate behavior. Um, it's, and, and really, this is a Wild West Inquisition because George Washington grows up on the accessible frontier. This is like San Francisco. So the military giving soldiers drugs before or after. Um, okay, the spice trade. It goes back a long ways. Like this is some radical element I was just reading up on opium, trying to figure out what the excuse is for people to do that. You know, it's once in a if you did it once a month and you didn't drink, you only did it once a month, and it wasn't recreationally in any way or political. it could be quite healthy as you're doing it with full qualified medical supervision. I heard that once every 6 weeks or something like that. But oftentimes they're looking for a weapon, and George Washington is that ideal reality, instead of looking for a representative, someone who can protect people. Yeah, they're not looking for that, not at all, because there's ambitions, and it's acutely complicated, as much as the geography of Indochina or America, these once upon a time undeveloped places, very difficult. Just the geography, and not looking for the representations. Goes back well before America. In Ireland, they said no taxation without representation. Find the most intelligent people so that we can work together to actually solve it, instead of saying, oh, here's someone, let's use them as a weapon because they're desperate out there. They're in some dysfunctional situation for some nominalization. It's very complicated. I tried to do the scientific method, the forensic evidence, the statistical analysis, and not just to be some desperado scapegoat in the Wild West, because the reality is, my friend Dominic, who is flaming bisexual, quite, and Mexican and Native American, would do dangerous things if I wasn't there. And I think that if he was, because I think at least since 1998, that these guys were on the radar of someone like George Michaels and doing crazy stuff in the Wild West, stunt. And that putting the two together to say, oh, look, let's find a very profound representation. My friend Dominic and George Michaels could have been magic, more than, and again, the complexities of the geography and the geopolitics, as much as the arts and the amusement, the flaming gaming thing, which if it is public, I become emotionally deranged to the extreme. I really do. In private, me and Dominic were friends. I've had plenty of totally gay friends or flaming bisexual friends. And in private, it's great. It's we're friends. There might be a little flirting there, a little bit. I'm not really like, I need a girlfriend here. And I want them to have a career. That's why I'm friends with them, where we get along, because we're like-minded, but I'm not, I don't want to be weaponized in a pathological, unhappy way. And so as soon as it becomes weaponized, as in public, like, oh, it turns out, well, let's embarrass this guy as a weapon. Okay, my eyes all rolled when I'm looking at. I'm looking at the door. It's a cute camera. What are you doing later, camera? You want to look at some? It's stupid, completely stupid. There wouldn't be an internet if it wasn't for, I think, people like my neighbor, Dominic, who was, wanted to be a security guard for George Michaels. I'm pretty sure you could ask that to Dominic. You guys know who he is, and that is positively something that, okay, well, George Michaels is sort of Italian, well, so is my neighbor, okay. And they really pride, respect, I know. But that wasn't available, even though being on the radar since clearly since 1998. I'm telling you, that is the scientific evidence shows that. And Kurt Cobain, okay, do the math there. Someone who's out of some derangement, pretending that they're gay. That's, opium, okay? Okay, should we defend the heroin addicts, or find out what the F is wrong with their lives that they're doing that? What's their excuse for being a junkie, And if you're highly functional, that's great, If you're a professional and you aren't named Brian, okay, or Dominic, okay, I think that's incidentally, I don't know, Deloise, what the hell? Lots of fun. Clearly, Captain Chaos was sober enough, or fat enough. Fat and beard, yes, there you go. Why not? But yeah, publicly, I became acutely melancholy. The security. Okay, that's supposed to be discreet and qualified. Okay, and maybe more loyal than some of us would understand. Okay, because that's what, why we have a family. Man and woman get married because they are really loyal to each other, and the community recognizes this. But the individual, George Michaels, and his security, just lifestyle, if people really cared, that it wouldn't be a conversation. It would be a discreet situation and not a conversation again, okay? Because that is just weaponized. I have become completely deranged, okay? This is, go and anonymously walk walk around San Francisco for, be homeless there, okay? How about that, huh? And you just can't really compare the childhood to an adult lone wolf howling in the streets, okay? Because they might have no boundaries or concern, okay? And if you have an unconcerned person out there, my gosh, that's everything goes out the window if you have that sort of mentality. And the military is sort of saying, oh yes, let's send these, not these gay people, but people who are convicted of doing reckless things. Okay, and a lot of that's not having a job, and if you are truly gay, potentially you have opportunities to get a job that a straight person couldn't. Okay, but you have to be connected in the right place and not used as a weapon. My neighbor moved into the neighborhood with his Hells Angels stepfather and mother after we moved in there. I was hoping not 3 brothers and a single mother, but 3 women, okay, and their very concerned father moved in. That's my fantasy, okay? That girl next door who's actually happy to see you and not an embarrassment, because even though Dominic and I were good friends and the whole neighborhood, we were like a the boys, not a gang, but we, TV party tonight. Still, there was no girls there, okay, and there's plenty of excuses. If you want to weaponize something, weaponize a highly intelligent woman with a younger sister who's knows my name. You can use that as a weapon, and I will surrender immediately. Okay, and that's just the pattern in which I noticed that specific one right there. With a lot of trust and a lot of respect. When we'd go to San Francisco, it was rather cool to visit. My dad had some cousin who was flaming gay, and only we would go and visit him. No, my dad's brother is like, he grew up in the East Coast. Just by chance, my dad grew up in the Midwest entirely, and started college when he was just 16 years old. He wasn't, almost 19 years old when he started college, when he graduated from high school. A lot of people are in that category. They're just too young, and that's criminal, actually, to be, who is it? I can't remember. What's his name? Alfred Hitchcock. Sorry, the name is just, unless if it's on a poster on the wall with his name, which I would have that, I'm pretty sure, in a curated study of all things. He was illegally older than the rest of the kids, and he didn't want to go to the cops because it was actually the law. He was supposed to go to trade school or get a tutor and not be some potential weapon amongst children. Okay, it's a reality. And it's 10 times worse in the Wild West, because that's where that actually happens. You actually have, I definitely noticed it in Wild West, all of America, effectively. Teddy Roosevelt, George Washington, people are in the Wild West, whether they're managing themselves properly or not, whether they should be there or not be there. That's why I left West America, because I felt like there was, my neighbor Dominic and his brother were in a lot of drunken driving incidents, countless, and a lot of them, not even necessarily they were driving, there were fatalities. Okay, and I would say that was weaponization, or Hell's Angels. I don't know. So you guys could understand that if the wrong person is there, myself especially, horrible things could happen. And the police, whether it's in California or Oklahoma or practically anywhere in America, can take this radical perspective. I think the military as well, that they're just looking for the bad guy. And if you start, making stuff up, Kurt Cobain did that, okay? That's a weapon for sure, okay? I guess Kurt Cobain saying, well, heroin is good for you. Okay. Occasionally, yes. Occasionally. Every day? No. Okay. Just Brian Cocaine. There you go. How about, what was that as your name? Okay. It'd be elementary, my fear. Okay. And it's hilarious to me. I don't want to play this game. I'm telling you, West America, you have a, I don't know if it's a wingnut. Again, it's acutely complicated if you have to start naming Yetis and Bigfoot and Nirvana. Okay, none of them are from West America except for the one who's dead. And playing Bobby Fischer games is also instrumental in identifying the representation that the world needs as someone who's clearly really smart. They see this from a very early age. Say, oh my God, this guy is like an ace. And they're just going to abuse him by pointing the camera at the guy. Okay, and he was utterly aware of that. I'm aware of that. But I wasn't aware as a kid until I really went to the East Coast. It did not register until I came to Europe. It really didn't register it. Then I was like, oh my, epiphanies came rather quickly within a week of contemplation, which where I'm at for the last several years is actually not possible amongst random people at a very cheap hotel. It's like criminals perpetually showing up. And I don't want to be around those people. That's just pathological. I don't want to be even out in public, period. I'd much rather have a sanctuary where I could help people solve the world's problems, okay, gladly. But I need a sanctuary, and as long as it's a weaponized conversation, it's like, oh, what do you think about this? And, thinking, that's what the Titanic did. It was thinking about, oh, should we go faster? Icebergs, yeah, we'll go fast. Yeah, let's go. That's what they did. They thanked themselves right into oblivion. Okay, the whole world will play that game because the Wild West thinks it's kind of cool to play games. It's actually not. It's like opium addiction. It's actually quite reckless. And in my neighborhood, it didn't exist. It was a taboo. It's like, what? Like, it actually didn't even register because there was literally, didn't exist. Unless if you went, the homeless area or something like that. And I know that in the upper classes, it actually does exist, but it's very pragmatic, more or less. Until someone goes to Hollywood and starts yelling because they're drunk on something. And it'd be much better to be a scholar where you're not tempted, let alone exposed to the randomness of the name game. Brian Cocaine. It's elementary. This gets activated in the New World because there is no quote unquote traditional nation. Our names are really come from our last names and our impossible names, the ones that we don't know how to change. It's not in our culture to play name games. Not in a rational culture. I've been talking for half an hour. How about that? In the traditional world, they work, but only in the traditional world. As soon as you have some foreign element, okay, it can be weaponized, the whole thing. Okay, and especially if you grew up in that weaponized situation in the Wild West, where George Washington shouldn't be there. Thomas Jefferson should, but it's a complete contradiction. So you have disaster mentality because Thomas Jefferson escapes, George Washington doesn't.